Hey, welcome back to YOML, a year of magical learning. Today, we are excited to continue our discussions. This is part 4 of 5, and I'm super excited to continue on this book because, to me, this book is, I mean, I really like it just because it's profound in terms of the concept that, the author is trying to introduce. So I can't wait to hear what Chris thinks about what his reflection for part 4 or 5 is.
Yeah, so I'm excited to continue on as well. Obviously, one of my favorite books. And when I say favorite, we talked about, like, for me, it's books I learned the most from. So this is by far one of the books I learned the most from, which is why it resulted in a 4-part reflection. So, quick recap: if this is the first one that you're tuning in for Humankind, this book is called Humankind: A Hopeful History by the author Rutger Bregman, and the book is about the traditional view of humankind is, when you peel back the layers of the onion to our core, we are negative and dog eat dog kind of mindset, and if it's you or me, it's gonna be me, and I'm gonna kill you, basically. Is the primal instinct when you peel it all back to its core. Rutger Bregman's theory and thesis is, when you peel back humanity to their core, we're actually kind, loving, caring, and all those good qualities that we all try to be. And then he gives a whole lot of supporting evidence as to what his claim is, and that's why it's called a hopeful history. Because humanity is actually filled with way more actions that align to this theory than it would be the other one. You can find some outliers, obviously, but for the most part, most of us are pretty kind and good at our core. And he backs it up with a lot of anecdotes. That said, it was really fun. Like Drew mentioned, it was kind of a counter cultural take on humanity as the prevailing thought today, and it was really interesting, book overall. So highly recommend it. That said, this is reflection 4 of 5. This one is about mirroring, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is what this book made me think about, and myself particularly. So we were just talking about yesterday, actually a part of all 3 of the conversations we've already had. We've kind of touched on this a little bit, but humanity has this. We read this in other books. I can't remember. I think this is maybe in Thinking Fast and Slow, and I feel like this was in that book by Robert Cialdini, Persuasion. I don't know. There's probably been maybe 2 or 3 other ones that have really touched a lot on our mirroring gene that we have, where we like to reflect back what we see in front of us. I mean, so if you and I are smiling, happy, and you walk into a conversation, and you're new to the conversation, and everybody around you is kind and smiling and approachable, and seem like they have a lot of energy, like, you naturally are going to mirror that back with people. If you're working at a great company and you're around a great culture, and you're going to naturally reflect the people that are around you. I mean, I think I know I've heard this a million times in my life, before even this journey began, but you kind of are a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Because, like, the people that we spend time with, the average, yeah. The people that you spend so much time with, you end up mirroring back, kind of their personalities, and you guys all kind of, intersect all together, right? So for me, this particular reflection, he touches a lot on our desire to mirror, and that's also another one of his thesis that leads to, look, like, there's a reason why we are a Homo puppy, right? Like, we are drawn into people that are kind, have kind faces, facial features, that have kind, like, eyes and smile, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, we seek that out, and there's a reason why, because we're at our core, we're people, right? That's the whole Homo puppy theory, right? Is we've made ourselves slowly but surely over time evolved to be even more kind and appealing to other people, so they can be more approachable. So we're attracting more people, because that's what matters, right? And that's what we learn, and that's what we mirror back. So for me, this particular reflection, though, made me start to think about my son Luca. When I was writing this one, he was about 8 months old at the time, and he's about 18 months now. So a year ago that I wrote this. He smiles all the time at me. Like every time that I walk into the room, this kid just like lights up and starts smiling. And my wife jokes all the time, like, there's like it frustrates her because he doesn't do that to her, right? Not that he's like mean to her, but like there's a reason why. My kids are so impressionable, and I smile all the time. Like, and whenever I smile, he just immediately smiles back, and now it's just become a thing he just does, right? And it's fascinating to me because how quickly he picks up on me smiling all the time, and all of a sudden he smiles back, and then we both chuckle and laugh or whatever, and he's he's learning. That's what he's learning, right? He's learning like this is good. I feel safe. I feel protected. I smile. Like people smile back at me, and we laugh, and we have a good interaction. But then it made me start to think about Amelia, right? And unfortunately for my daughter, she never got the ability to observe and watch my wife and I and learn from us and mirror back our actions after she passed away so early on. I wrote in this reflection, though, however, Amelia was never a normal child. Ironically, my whole entire life purpose is trying to mirror Amelia and what she taught me of how to live a purpose-driven life. And it's kind of funny, sometimes when you think about the whole parent-child relationship, I've always thought the parents are the mentors, right? The parents are the lead by example, like your kids are going to follow whatever you do, kind of thing. And it's so important because they're so impressionable. Somehow I was blessed with a child that actually was my hero, and was the only person in my life that I've ever met that I've just I owe it to her to do my best to try to mirror back the life that she lived, and that's what I've dedicated my life to do, and that's what living for two is. So Amelia was just a special kid, and she's always going to be a really incredibly special person to me. And just made me think about, we mirror our idols, right? We mirror the people that inspire us. We mirror the people that we see their actions and how they live their lives, and we either want to be that person or we don't want to be that person, but we mirror those people. So she gave me a blueprint on how I should live my life, and I made it a promise to honor her and everything that I could do. And here we are in this Your Magical Learning Adventure right now, and this is a part of that journey, right? Like, this is a part of me honoring that promise to Amelia, and Clubany is a part of that promise, and the book that I wrote was a part of that promise, and whatever else comes next, right? Whatever new tower is being built in the city, like that I talked about in my book, like that'll always be trying to live up to my hero, who I want to mirror every single day. So that was what this reflection made me think about. So the question I posed to everybody was, who's your hero, and how do you try to emulate them in your life? And mirror what they taught you. So I'd love to actually hear your answer to that one. I know we don't always do that one, but I'd love to kind of hear your thought of, like, who is your hero that you try to emulate and mirror? Love to learn.
Yeah, so for me, I think the reflection title for me, I would say it doesn't ring the bell as much as the word imitate, because for me, I truly think that we try to become the person that we want to become, right? Like the hero, whatever hero, whatever, because we are drawn to the people that we wish to become. We yearn to become that person. It isn't a mirror per se, it's like an imitation. So an imitation is like step in the shoe of, and I mentioned this even in the first reflection, is we have the ability to take ourselves and put ourselves in the shoe of that person. We have that ability, right, and we can sense it with a great accuracy. Just like I said to you before, is a lot of time if I lie to you, you would know. And if I were to have an expression in my eye, like maybe move my eyebrow, squinch my eyebrow or extend it, right? You know that, hey, I'm either confused or I'm either angry. My emotion, because we are expressing it, and because of that, you felt the emotion. I guess the positive and negative vibe that we express, right? We can subconsciously absorb them, and we can become that person. We can, like you said, the word you have there, like emulate, right? You want to
Right.
emulate that person, you emulate the behavior, you want to
Mhm.
emulate the characteristic, the personality of that behavior that you want to become, right? And we are drawn to those people. So for me, the word mirroring is more like a psychological trick than anything else. But from the, just like, you have the book, how to win friends and influence people,
Right.
versus the other book,
The
the 48
um,
power law, right? It's the same
right.
concept, but it's
Right.
looking from different lens, right? One is from the positive, one is from negative.
Right.
Mirroring that, that's why I want to, maybe hopefully that I can convince you to maybe not use the word mirroring, because mirroring is like, I'm doing this so you like me.
Right.
But imitate or emulate someone is because you like that person, where you
Right.
were drawn to that person and you want to become that person, so you emulate them, you don't mirror them,
Right.
right? It's not like, okay, you go left, I go right, because I got to mirror you to go right.
Right.
It's not, because that's more of like a manipulations of the psychological, I guess you could say, a disadvantage, or um a, a a habit that we have, right? We
Mhm.
we tend to find people that are like us more attractive, in terms of, friendlier and smiling, just because we
Yeah.
want that, right? And
Mhm.
so when people mirror us, we feel better, and we like that person more. And psychologists and, um you know the practitioner of these psychology concept, they will do that to win a sale, or to do this and that. So for me, it's it's the same concept, but it has a bad connotation to it. Something with,
Right.
never quit.
Yeah.
Right,
No,
never
I
quit
yeah,
versus
right.
enduring, right? So
Right.
it's the same concept from that, but I think because of the way we have been using it, and we're anchored to a certain negative images with these word, I mean, personally, I would want to use emulate, because
Sure.
you want to
Yeah, I
emulate your
mean,
hero, you want to live up to the personality and characteristic of the people that you admire, right?
right.
Admire, and you want to emulate them, you don't want to mirror them.
Fair. I mean, I'm not. I guess I'm not going to argue about the words. I mean, you make a valid point, and I do like the word emulate a little bit better. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the words matter, right? As we've talked about,
Hmm.
always be impeccable with your words. So make sure that you're saying what you're saying, right? I can't
Right,
I
because
can't mirror,
each word, like I say, it triggers an image,
right,
and whether it's a good intended image or a good intended word, but it may cause a different image in other people's, mind, then it may contradicts, and it may not, it may even do more damage than good, in terms of trying to trigger the word triggering an image, because word for us is like a an accepted meaning that we carry around, and then we pass it around from one person to the person, to have a way to communicate, to get to on the same page as one another, so that
right,
we can work together and hunt together and benefit together, and do that. And so having impeccable word, like impeccable with your word, is very essential. And I think, having the word emulate, I mean, I don't know, it could be something better, but I'm just saying, mirroring is something that I have heard many times, that people have used it for their own benefit, and that may create a, a miscommunications and misinformation. And
right,
I've been reading this book, alongside doing this podcast, and most of the examples and evidence that the author is giving, in terms of the reason why we are, have the evil and negative side to us, where we were talking about, the young lady got staffed by a bunch of people and 38 people looking
Right.
at windows and didn't do anything and just say, hey, you guys are evil, you don't help people. And that's the thing is all this comes from misinformation. Same thing with the story with New Orleans and Hurricane Katrina,
Right.
where people embellishing some outrageous story that is, it's doesn't have any substance to it. So a lot of information that we have in the negative and dark cloud cover that we have today is all made up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all like it's something with the experiments, like the basement in Stanford. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. That was so messed up.
I mean, the thing is, people, you have an agenda, and you forcing people to do certain thing, and you take an advantage, and you manipulate people's kindness nature for your own good, and you twist it, to make them evil. And that's
Right.
a miscommunication. That's a misinformation. And all these come from some sort of misinformation because the people who are doing the experiment, right? They thought they were helping humanity by participating, by acting out a nature or a personality that they don't actually carry. It's not natural because they are
Right.
playing a part. They're playing a prisoner, or they're playing a guard, right? They are playing it, and they're trying to get into the role. And even in the sense when they try to get in a role, they couldn't even get in a role. They were forced to say, hey, this is for the good of science, for you to do
Right.
things that it is not comfortable, and they are told that this is for the so these people, they act different from their norm because they were told
Yeah.
that
They were
they
manipulated. I
will
mean,
will contribute to society,
right.
to something better. Hey, we want to create an image of how guards and prisons should not behave, so that we can reform the prison system. That's what they were told, but it wasn't the intention. So somebody manipulated and twist, their their sense of humanity, and
Right.
because of that, that becomes this dark cloud that we carry with us. And because we pay more attention to the negative, any positive, even 1,000 positive, 99 things positive and one negative, right? The negative will always overshadow the
Yeah, my
199 positives.
my grandmother used to have a saying that she would tell me all the time when I was a kid, and she was like, because I got in trouble a lot as a kid,
Hmm.
like, and when I say like I got in trouble, like I wasn't like anything incredibly serious, but I did a lot of stupid shit. Like, I mean, I probably had the cops called on our house, for innocent fun, but like,
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe a handful of times, as a kid, before I was even in high school. I mean, we were throwing water balloons at cars or shining laser pointer pins in people's, windows at night, or, like hitting tennis balls, acting like we were throwing a football across the driveways or whatever and hitting a car, like, I mean,
Hmm.
it was like we would just do stupid stuff. Right. And but it was always in good fun, at least in our opinion. Looking back on it now, it's pretty shitty. But I mean, we were little kids, and me and my friends were just doing stupid things, right? And uh, my grandmother used to always have a saying, that she would tell me, because I got like great grades, and I played all the sports, and I was an all-star in the sports, and and I was a very good student, and had good friends, and stuff like that. But she would always tell me, like, Chris, one 10 attaboys, gets erased by one all shit,
Hmm.
every single time. Like, it never fails. Like, that's what people remember, is the one off shit, and
Yes.
I just, that's always stuck with me my entire life, is like, it's, you can have 1,000 attaboys, and then you have one all shit, and you're like, well, that's it.
That
That's
stucks.
like
That
you said,
stucks with you.
right. Right, exactly. And she's right. I mean, you're like, you gotta, that's, for me, that's why I added integrity into my core values. Right. So
Hmm.
I think I've told you before in the past, I used to love stealing groceries from the grocery store. It was fun for me. Like, I mean, just fun. It was, and good hearted. Like, I didn't need to. I had plenty of money. It was just like, so, it was those self scanners. This started when my one of my closest friends, ironically, He was a recovering drug addict,
Mm-hmm.
and I pulled him away. I don't know if I've ever told you the story before, but I he was in a lot of he was struggling like really really bad. I mean, this has been one of my closest friends since I was 5 years old, and I had just graduated from college. He came from family. He got caught up with some wrong people later on in high school after his parents got divorced. And, as I was in college and doing my own thing and getting ready to prepare for my life, he was spiraling downhill into a crippling crystal meth addiction. And this was during that time when crystal meth was like, really on the rise in the country. And he got really caught up in it, right? Like that was the life that he was living. He was dealing drugs. His body was wasting away. He was in and out of like these really, really, really seedy places and things like that all the time. And then he got into like a really bad car wreck one night. And I was like 22 and I just got my new first job out of school. And, I was making, like I told you earlier this week, like
37,000 a year.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, look, man, like I finally have like my own apartment, I'm out of school. Like I was like, that's it. Like, I mean, he almost killed himself in this car accident because he'd been up for like 48 hours straight because meth, you're on meth, you're up all the time, right?
Right.
And he passed out at the wheel of his car as he was driving, just fell asleep because he like literally hadn't slept for days, and flipped his truck over multiple times and ended up in the hospital and was like, should have died. I mean, he probably should have died. And he didn't. He survived, and that was like the kind of the wake up call when for me, I was like, I got to step in. Like, I tried to do stuff earlier on, and it wasn't good enough. His family had given up on him, and this is like one of my best friends, and I was like, that's it. I gotta do something. So I brought him to South Bend with me, and he lived on my couch for 6 months, or actually ended up staying there for like years. But I was like, hey, here's the only requirement. I was like, you don't need to get a job. I had an extra car actually. My parents gave me another car, so I had 2 cars at the time. So I was like, look, I have an extra car up there for you. Like, you can sleep on my couch. Like, you don't have to work. Like, you have to do anything. The only job is to be clean and sober and just sleep on my couch, and I'll even buy you food. How this all leads back to integrity, right? So I was young and didn't have a ton of money. And they had this this Meyer, which is like this big like superstore here in Indiana, and like the Midwest in general. It's kind of like a super Target or something like that kind of scenario. Anyway, that was early on when they started these self-checkout lines, and they were like the full conveyor belt where you would go scan your stuff and you put it down to a conveyor belt, right? And then it would go down to the collect, and then you would bag up your stuff and you would leave, right? So what we ended up doing, because I was basically paying for 2 people to eat all the time because he had no money, and his body was ravished. I mean, this guy used to be, he's like 6'3", 6'2", and he, and at his healthiest weight is probably like 190. I swear to you, he probably weighed like 130 pounds or something like that. I mean, he was like wasting away. I mean, it was awful. So he was, as he was recovering, like he was just ravaging just food all over the place. I mean, because he was like, he'd deprived his body for so long with meth, and he was just, anyway, like he was eating like crazy. So we would go through the scanner, and I would say, hey, you just go down to the end of the line, and I'm gonna go and fake scan it across the thing, and then I'm just gonna, because the weight of the conveyor belt was how they weighed if something was on it or not. So I would fool the camera, and I would just scan it, and then I would chuck it down the thing before it hit the conveyor belt, and he would bag it up really fast, right? So we would go buy groceries once a week for him and get him all this stuff, and we would probably spend $100, but we probably bought like $300 worth of groceries or something like that, because I would just, every other item, it was like like just shooting it down the thing. So we did this for like, I don't know, we probably did this for like a year. And every single time we went to the store, and because I was supporting him, and I was like, what, I don't know, like, and it was kind of fun, so we just having a good time, and I know it was like, this isn't hurting anybody. Look, I was like, in my head, I justified it rationally. I was like, it's like, look, these assholes, they got rid of these people's jobs, like, like, if, and they don't have anybody monitoring it, like, they're saving money, like, it's okay, like, it's not a big deal,
So this is what I'm talking about. This is where the misinformation comes from. For some reason, they have a bad image in your mind, and that's why you do it, right? And so that's the thing, is this is the traumatic debt that we talked about yesterday, because if you go back to the beginning, like when you have no dark cloud cover over your head, right, you wouldn't do that. Everybody
No,
has the sense of conscience. Hey, it's hurting somebody, right? Because you
right.
you say, hey, it doesn't hurt anybody that is innocent. You say these guys are, you know, bunch of assholes or whatever. You
I was
have
supporting
you,
a recovering drug addict that I was paying for
but that's the
myself to
thing
live.
is,
You know,
for you,
yeah,
you from your perspective, they don't deserve the money from you, and
right,
from their perspective is, you guys are just a bunch of delinquents. So that's where I'm saying is all of
right,
these misunderstanding and miscommunication, it creates all the dark cloud evil that we now see today, and the debt is keep piling up because right now everybody is putting up a wall just because
right,
that's the misunderstanding. Because if you had known, like, hey, let's say back in the day where the grocery store was owned by some old lady, right? Then
right,
she
right.
got, right, you wouldn't do
And
it
I
to her.
saw. I would
You
no.
wouldn't
I
do
would
that
never
to
do that.
her.
No,
You know what I
no,
mean?
never.
But
Yeah,
because you see her as an innocent person from your
right,
perspective, so you make judgment. But these judgments are basically on the information. For whatever reason, maybe you watch some kind of news and somebody twisted some kind of words and these guys are assholes, and so
right,
you start doing it and you justifying yourself to say, I am doing the world a favor. I'm doing something good. And every single one of us has that intention. We go to war because I'm doing something good. I kill somebody because I'm doing something good.
right.
I'm saving somebody. I'm saving my family. I'm saving whatever, right? This is a justification we have. Same thing with like all of the gangs members and oppression.
Oh
The
yeah,
gang members say, "Hey, my dad or whatever is an asshole and it's a reject and he's a wife beater or whatever." So he joins the gang and say, "Hey, these guys gonna turn out to be like my dad, so I'm gonna shoot him." Right? So
right.
so that's the thing is all this misinformation is coming all around, and that bag of traumatic debt, right, is piled up more and more and more. So even in today's society where we have the best standard of livings ever in the world, right, in any moment in history, but yet we have the worst depressions rate ever. From so it comes from this heavy burden and this heavy mental mental weight that you carry around. And so for me, it's this is the cause, right? Anything that I've like all of the evidence I saw in the book where he's talking about like other people are telling him like these are the events that unfold that portray humans in a bad negative light. He said, well, let's re-examine it and see what would actually happen based on the research, based on more investigative investigations on the actual event itself, from the the lost the law of the flies book, right?
Right. Yeah.
And to
Which I'm gonna
the
read that.
Stanford
I've actually
basement.
never read that. uh, I can't wait. Actually, I'm gonna read that one because
So
I've never actually read it. Yeah.
that book is actually required reading in high school.
It is. I didn't read
It's like
it.
I mean, and the thing is, you are passing around bad information.
You are. Yeah. No, you're totally right. If you pretend
You
that
you
that
are
is
required
like
you are
right,
required to read
right,
the book, and
right.
so you are. The thing is, the
Yeah. Actually,
teachers
you make a really good point. Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar. Like Julius Caesar gets stabbed in the back by some guy. Like that's not how. I mean, yeah, they can
and
happen,
we
but
and
but
we are required to learn
that's what we're
these. These
required
are
to
like
read. Right.
these are
Right.
the lessons that you should take away. And to
Right.
me,
And
the teachers
Beowulf.
and
Yeah.
educators and all these, the Department of Education, they are saying we are doing our kids a favor by telling them, hey, to learn by these things. They're telling us to learn
Right.
a bunch of lies, right? It's traumatic debt because what I mean, what happened? I mean, do you know why even the two family fight in the first place? The Montague and the Capulet? We don't
No
know. We
idea.
just know they
Yeah.
hate each other.
Right.
We don't know
Right.
why.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? It's just some kind of misunderstanding a long, long time ago, and it just pile up more and more. And now they just say, "Oh, I hate you." Why? Because you are Montague, and because
Right.
you're Capulet, right? Nothing else. No other, reasonable reason or excuses that you can
Right.
say other than because you're a Montague and you're a Capulet. We don't, you know, we don't share the same sky. We need to annihilate the other one because you were told not to. Like even the parents, right? Even the parent, they don't even know why they're fighting, because their father was fighting and their grandfather was fighting and their great grandfather was fighting, and they just, just like the story I told you about the daughter, the mother, and the grandmother with the turkey, where talking about when the daughter and the mother was preparing the turkey, and the mother chopped off the end of the turkey before she put it in the oven, right? It's just like, why did you do it, right? Well, I don't know. My mother, the grandmother, she always did it, so I do it too. So, long story short, the granddaughter went to ask her grandmother when, at a later date, say, hey, why did you, chop down the end of the turkey before you put it in turkey? Because in her days, the oven was too small, so they had to cut it, had to trim the end so it would fit, right? But then the reason that we do it today, it's not really the reason.
Makes no sense. Yeah, right.
But it makes no sense for us, and so lots and lots of misinformation, and that is what causes the evil in the world. And for me, is people are just trying to protect themselves, and this is why they do the other things first, because those guys are assholes. So I'm trying to help my friends out. It's just the perspective, right? From their perspective, you guys are delinquents, and from your perspective, those guys are big cat asshole that is
well, actually, from my perspective, it was totally different. I was 22. I was 22 years old, and I was supporting another 23-year-old, who was in a bad shape. Like, I mean, like literally, like I can't. I don't. Have you ever known anybody that's like been addicted, like have an addiction? Have you ever? Has that ever been a part of your life? Like of knowing. No. I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, actually, the book that I'm reading right now is it's called the Fifth Vital. It's a book of this opioid addict that recounts his addiction and all the crap that he did and how hard. I mean, it is devastating to all the lives around these people, to the person itself, to like. I mean, it is destroys lives. I mean, and it is terrible to watch. So I'm watching my best friend slowly die. Right? Like, I mean, I was like, I had to do something. The what we were doing was wrong. At the grocery store, but what I wanted to get, the moral of the story of that one was, he's doing great now. He's thriving. Like, like that time period of his life changed his life. Right. Like, I mean, we got him back on a path where he could get a job, hold down a job, do stuff.
Well,
like,
it's not because you stole the grocery. It's because you care for him, and regardless whether you stole the grocery or not. I mean, he has a friend that cares for him. That's why he recovered, not because you stole, right?
Well, he recovered because he wanted to recover. I just helped him. Like, but that was it. I didn't do anything.
The story of you stealing grocery has no merit in these discussions, and I don't think it's any excuse to say, hey, because my friend is struggling, I had to steal, right? To me, it's no excuse.
I agree.
That is not to be encouraged. I wouldn't encourage that.
I agree. This is the moral of the story was that's why I added in integrity into my core values, because like if you actually look at it, I mean, I've done this exercise before with certain things. I've told you about this. Like whenever you have that like that pit in your stomach where you're like, something doesn't feel right? It doesn't feel right to steal from somebody else, right? Like, I don't care, even if it's for a great cause, it's just something doesn't feel right. And I would go look in my, like these days, back then I didn't have a core values list, to go value. That's not how I live my life. But these days, like I would go back and I would, in that same exact scenario, I would go, does it violate, challenge, balance, play?
But
like,
the thing is, for me, you don't really need to go back because it just comes out it's gnarly.
It is right. So, but this is what I'm saying. This is why I added in integrity, because I was like, look, like at the end of the day, like I know that that's not right. Like whether or not it violates my core values or my mission or my purpose or not, that as stated today, like it's irrelevant. Like I know that that's not right. So therefore, like, I mean, I mean, like, I will never do that ever again. As a matter of fact, I've had multiple opportunities where my old triggering self would come up and I'm like, oh, I forgot to pay for that. When you're doing self checkouts all the time, you're like, oh, I left that one can of kombucha or whatever in there on accident, and then I go, I'll go pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, a part of me is like, well, I'll just walk out of the store. Like, and then I'm like, nope, integrity, Chris. Remember, like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, I go back and I pay for the kombucha.
Well, it
right?
depends on how strongly your core values are. It's just because, for me is I mean, I just couldn't do it. I just like if I ask you, Chris, right now, I'm dying and I have a terminal disease. I need you to shoot me right now. I bet you, and you need to be close to me so that you don't accidentally miss
I would
and
do
hurt.
it. Yeah.
You couldn't. No, you couldn't. Not that you wouldn't. Even if you want to, you couldn't.
Well, so
the thing is, right now you can think about it, but when I'm like right, like 2 feet away from you, you could not. Even if you hate me, you could not. Because
I mean, you're probably right. I'm trying to think about this one because like
because
that's not
you actually trying to do me a favor, saving me from my misery, right? But you couldn't. You could not do it.
Well, I've ironically I've had a little bit of experience with this. Not the shooting of somebody in the head, but like having to make a call to take somebody's life, and take them off life support. So like I do know what that feels like. And it's not it is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. But if I had to shoot that person, like it's different than saying, look.
Well, you have to end someone's life versus let it expire. That's two different things, right?
Yeah,
that's a huge difference.
Right? It is
because
a big difference.
My life doesn't expire just because you do nothing, right? You do nothing, right? You let it expire. That's different than actually taking it. That's what I'm saying is there are certain elements in our system that is been conditioned for million years, and this is who we are. Deep down is who we are. I mean, regardless of what people say, deep down who we are is we are a very kind person, right? We are kind to our kid. We are kind to our friend because we know they don't hurt us. The reason why we're not kind to other people is because we have been told that other people will hurt us.
Yeah.
Right? You see what I'm saying? So for me, this is why I love this book, is because it actually go against the grain of society, because society has been conditioned to say, you got to watch out. People are out there to get you, but no one is. Are you out there to get anyone? I'm not. You're not. And the people I talk to, they're not. They just mind their own business. So why is that people saying people are out there to get you? You got to be careful. You got to lock your doors. You got to Yes, you have to do that because there are miscommunication where it creates this imbalance. Just like, for example, I told you, about the gangster, right?
Right.
The gangs are bad, right? But the kid before they join the gang, were they bad? Are the kid in a gang bad? No, they do it because they thought they did something good.
Right. Yeah. No,
right?
I mean, I agree.
Even criminals say, I'm doing something good. Even Thanos in the Avengers, he's trying to save the universe.
The book, the Fifth Vital book, he goes into some pretty graphic shit about as a drug dealer and as a drug addicted, heroin addict and opioid addict and all this other stuff, like some of the stuff that he did, and he always justified it in his own mind a lot of times of like, well, if I don't do this, like, they're
they can do get someone else and get worse or whatever. Right. I mean, it's always the justifications, right? So the missing piece of the puzzle, whatever information you get, and this is especially true, and this is what I'm gonna say it again. News to your brain is like sugars to your body. It is very, very destructive. It is not good for you.
Well,
I mean, for anyone.
Some sugar.
No.
Yeah, you do. You don't need any sugar in your body?
Nope. Not anymore.
You don't need sugar at all?
Not anymore.
There's no sugar in meat? There's sugar in meat, right?
No.
What?
Like I eat no carbs.
There's no there's no sugars.
They probably tiny, but essentially you're talking about having like dynamite in your system. It is explosive. Sugars are explosive. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
it is so violently, like, it gives you a lot of energy. Just like I
Right.
told you, you put jet fuel in your car, right?
Right.
And you run it, well, your engine's not gonna last long. It's going to it's gonna break down because it it doesn't it can contain the pressure of the volatileness of the jet fuel, right?
Right.
Sugar is like that, right? It's so volatile, but your body is going to get damaged just because you using sugar. And the brain and your mind with the negatives, because all you've been feeding in the news is negative, and the
Right.
only thing that sells is negative stuff. And we are, like I say, one to 999 things, right? It says there are 999 good things you don't pay attention to because that's safe. The one thing that you pay attention to is that one negative thing. So you walk, you see at 999 different, whatever, like rocks, and then there's one rock that looks like snake you're going to pay attention to, just because that's survival skills and you have been conditioned for that. So our mind is going to be alert to these negatives. And if you are looking at the news, you're looking at all these things, is the only thing they feed you is like, then somebody got killed, right?
Right.
There's a million other one have happy life. Oh yeah, this one have happy life. Oh, in the middle of nowhere there's no war. Oh, in here, everything is good and dandy. It's a regular normal life. You know, a no, Tuesday Memorial, right?
Right.
So no one is put on the news this kind of peaceful goodness. Hey, fishermen went fishing. Nothing happens. No one has ever put on the news, on a TV, on a show about some guy going fishing and it's a normal day. Nothing happened. Oh, and then the only thing is, hey, somebody broke their neck. Somebody, do something stupid and get some kind of a shovel hit in the head, and half of the brain is bleeding out. Somebody, drove his car into the ditch, whatever. It's all this negative news, and when you watch the news, that's all you get. And the more you watch, the more cynical you become.
I totally agree. Actually, you're just reminding me of. Do you know who John Krasinski is? The guy that used to be on The Office. And he's married to Emily Blunt. And all right. So I don't know if you remember back during COVID when it first started, but it was like so negative. Every day it was like 5,000 people died. 10,000. Like every day they'd get on and they'd read the numbers or whatever, and it was like people were in lockdown and like. Blah blah blah. And so John Krasinski started this like joke, Good News Network, where he would get on and he would read the good news, of like positive stories every single day. And I totally forgot about it until you just mentioned it, because I don't know whatever happened to it, but it looks like he I don't know what happened to this.
Nobody watches anymore.
Yeah, nobody watches it anymore. Like, I mean, it's so sad, because you're right. Like, it goes back to what I was talking about of like, saying congratulations or saying good job to your elephant, right? Like, you can hit 99, great shots in a row on a tennis court. And it's the one bad one that you focus on. But like, these days I'm trying really hard to tell my elephant, like, great job, like, let's celebrate this a little bit. My dad's friends, I go golfing with them, pretty regularly. I don't golf a lot, but like whenever I do, it's always with my dad and his friends in general. And, they love golfing, and that's like a big thing that they've always done. They make fun of him so much because Dale Sears is like, he's a character all of his own. I mean, you read it in the book as I described him, but like, he's just a character. So whenever he hits a great drive, literally, this is what happens every single time. He hits a great drive and he goes, whoa! Like, I'm not joking. Like, and everybody like makes fun of him for it all the time, because he's always like, look at that shot, like, I mean, he just like yells it out.
But
like,
I bet he has a happy life.
He does. I mean, he does. So, but no, it made me start to think about this the other day when we were talking about this, because I'm like, kudos, Dad. Like we all make fun of him for going. They're always like, we always just make fun of him. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You can't just cheer for yourself all the time. Like,
why not? Who said you can't? Right? Society said, and you learned that from somebody. You learn that it is not okay to cheer for yourself. Like,
I know it is. I mean, now that we're talking about these things, like I'm starting to go, man,
like
maybe he knows something I don't. I should
not to cheer for yourself, right? Who wouldn't cheer? I mean, think about it. It is logical for somebody to cheer for themselves, and it is being frowned upon by society if you cheer for yourself.
It is. It's very much so. Everybody makes fun of him for it. They're like, "Oh my god!" Like you can just almost see everybody go. Every time that he does it, it's like a, you know, like it's just a face palm. You're like, "Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed." But but you know, now they all just make fun of him, and I make fun of him all the time for it because it's like just good humored fun now because it's like, you know, now I hit a good drive and I'm like, whoa, you know, look at my drive. You know, we all just make fun of him, but now that I'm thinking more and more about it, I mean, maybe I should be mirroring my dad. Like when I'm out on the tennis court and I hit a great shot, I should be like, did you ever stop? Everyone stop happy. Did you all just see that shot? That was insane. You know, like,
can we get an instant replay down here? I need to watch it again, right? So the thing is, you know, these are the things that to me make sense as a human being, but it is against the grain of society. I mean, think about it. If you don't, and everybody say, hey, oh, you should love yourself, but then when you have this kind of expression, then you say you get slapped on the wrist, say no. So you contradicting people. Like everybody saying, you know, you should love yourself first before you can love anyone else, and all this BS, all blah blah, right? For me, it's like, look, deep down, you need to have to cheer for yourself. You should be your biggest fan. To me, if you are your biggest fan, the depression would never even gonna have a grip on you ever.
I mean, I
never ever.
I tend to agree. I mean, like it's a. I mean, I don't want to ever say never ever just because we don't know.
But you're talking about back what I'm saying is, you know, only you can be you. No one can be better than you, being you, right? And so being you, it is the only thing you can do. That's the only thing that no one can take away from you. And like I say, if you can be your biggest fan, right? I'm talking about fan, being a genuine fan. You're depressed because why are you depressed? You're depressed because no one appreciates you.
Feel like you're letting you down. Yeah, you feel like you're letting yourself down.
But if you put yourself, then that's all needs. If you put yourself, other people will put you as well. So for me, is I truly believe that if you are your truly biggest fan, you know what a fan is, right? You accept that person for who they are. Yeah. Because you're judgmental against yourself. That's why you become depressed. I don't care who you are. You could be, hey, I'm handicapped. I have, you know, I can't walk. Whatever. Even if you have those kind of disabilities, you can still be happy because you have somebody who are your fan. When your fan are loyal to you because you are who you are, right? Then you won't be depressed. People, as humankind, our biggest strength, but it's also a weakness, is the ability to connect, to transport ourselves in another person's shoes. But when we can't do that, we become isolated. And when we become isolated, we become depressed and we become an outcast. An outcast, no one wants. Kids are struggling in high school because of all of these things, the expectations, right? You look at the news and, you know, you expect to do this, you expect to do that, blah, blah, blah. And all these BS that
they're trying to mirror unrealistic expectations.
Is only giving you something that you can your brain will focus on.
Right.
So whatever that the media is feeding you, right? This is the thing that you don't want, right? That's like I said, you know, 1 out of 999 things, right? 1 out of 1,000 things that they're feeding you. And the kids nowadays are being fed so much of this information, so much of these news that it is impossible not to feel bad for yourself. And to me, like I say, it's a tough world for the kids because the information has just
how are they supposed to know this stuff? I mean, like they're not. Like, I mean, I've thought.
I mean, cyberbullies happen like so much now. It's so pervasive now. It's like people are like depressed because somebody did this and somebody did that. It's like
he talks about that in the book, actually. You know, like firing a shot. You know, the majority of soldiers. We talked about this in the past reflection. Majority of soldiers like never fire a weapon ever, and that's like a proven statistic because they don't want to. But cyberbullying is similar to warfare. When it used to be hand-to-hand combat, and like, you know, people didn't fire guns in back in those days. A lot of times they found excuses not to because it's hard to do it up front. Like it's hard to bully somebody to their face and watch them cry and feel sorry and whatever. But it's really easy to shoot, drop a bomb on somebody through a drone, when you're sitting in a air conditioned building in DC and you're dropping a bomb somewhere in Pakistan or something like that, or it's really easy to destroy people's feelings when you're behind you're sitting on your chair in your parents' basement or whatever,
it's
and
a double whammy, it's just because you have the distance of your emotion. You distance your emotion because you have a button to press, and the other side of the world get a nuke, right?
Right.
That's one. And the other one is you have this dark cloud cover that everybody's telling you're doing the right thing. You are doing the right thing by hurting somebody because that person deserves it. That shithead deserves it, right?
Right.
That is the language. This is the kind of imagery that you're being bombarded with. Like, doesn't matter where you go, right? You are in this sinkhole, this what do you call those what was it? I forgot the word. It's like how quicksand.
Yeah.
Like you're in the mud sand and whatever, quick mud, whatever.
Quicksand. Yeah.
It goes. It just you can't escape from it.
Right.
You open up TV, all bunch of BS news. You put out Facebook, all bunch of curated BS news. Twitter, wherever you want. You go anywhere. You go to Facebook, Google, internet. You go to Netflix. Like even Netflix has those shit on there. Like all these shows. Like, hey, the shows make it, and so it doesn't make it, right?
Right.
Well, they create it for you because they say, hey, these are newsworthy. These are people who are watching it. It's like everything you see on TV is some kind of drama, some kind of.
I gotta get your attention.
Some kind of like
bad shit. Doctors
pain
or cops or
misery,
lawyers,
right? It's all this shit. I mean,
right.
You can't escape it. There's no way you can go where you show you actually the good news. Hey, a bunch of peaceful people living here, a bunch of people living there, a bunch of people living everywhere, a bunch of people helping each other out, right? But no, you see all people shooting, blah blah blah, blah, right? So to me, that's where this is the double whammy, just because it's so impossible to escape from the society. Just like you get on the back of a tiger, you can't get off because when you get off, it can bite you. You have to continue to be on the back of the tiger,
right?
And so you can't get away from it. And then you have the other piece where it's easier to do the negative stuff, the negative actions than before. And so, like I say, it's these thing that is shrouded the humankind.
Agreed. And I think when you peel back the layers and you get back to what we do best, like it'll be more reflective of what this guy's theory is. Real fast, because I know we're out of time. What's the answer to your question? To the question.
So actually, I don't have one.
Well,
I don't.
Why not?
I just don't. Like
you can say it yourself.
I could say that. Yeah, it would be myself because that's what I do. Is I'm always standing up for people, right? That means that I do things because I feel like I do it. I don't have a need to feel like I'm impressing anyone or I want to be anyone, because like I say before, one of my thing is when I was younger, I always rebel against, like, I'm always the underdog. I always fight for the underdog for whatever reason. That's my nature. I do that. I live for myself. I don't want to be Steve Jobs because it's great to have money, but I don't want his responsibility. It's great to be Elon Musk, but I don't want to be responsible for this and that and the other. So no one has ever fulfilled a role that I want to become. Not everything, right? Because when I look at people, it's, if you want to become that person, you have to take in the good and the bad as well. You can't just take the good and leave the bad, right? For example, Tiger Woods, right? I like to be Tiger Woods at some instances, but not all the time. So, and not every aspect. So for me, it's I'd rather be myself and do what I think feels good, and I will experiment and try different things. There's certain things that I do that it's strongly, like for me, for whatever reason, maybe because my name is true, and I keep saying to myself that it's true, and that word essentially makes me who I am. So for me, I don't do anything that is like not integrity, because if I do that, it's so much work, so hard for me to like trying to make myself feel okay, right?
Right.
It is traumatic to me to do things, even to steal like a 50 cent lemons from the grocery store. I couldn't do it. Not that even if I want to, even if you dare me, I still couldn't do it. I'm a chicken in those kind of area. So for me, it's I have like I said, most of the time I would consider myself a black sheep of the family, just
Yeah.
because I'm not normal. I'm not like everybody else, but
Well, you should like
at the
not
same time,
being normal is bad.
I don't care.
Right. Yeah. I mean, no, I love your answer, because I know you're now a fan of Matthew McConaughey. So I don't know if after reading his Green Lights book, and
I do like him, but I wouldn't say he would be my hero, just because, like I
no,
say,
no, that's not what I
oh,
was saying.
right.
No, I'm saying I know you're a fan of Matthew McConaughey. Now after reading the Green Lights, not that he's your hero. But I was going to say, you should, have you ever seen his Oscar speech that when he won for Dallas Buyers Club? Any chance
No,
you've seen that
no.
before? Okay, so here I'm going to send you this link, number one, but after we're done here, but I'm not going to play it. But basically, his speech was there are three things that I need to do each day, and his, the three things were, I need someone to look up to, another to look forward to, and then and the other is someone to chase, right? And then when he said who I chase, so he did his, someone to look forward to, someone to look up to, all that other stuff. And he said, who do I chase? And he was like, when I was 15 years old, I had a very important person in my life ask me, who's your hero? And he said, I thought about it, and he said, it's me in 10 years. And he goes, so when I turned 25, the same person comes to me and says, are you your hero? And he said, not even close. He said, why? Because my hero is me at 35. And he said, see, every day, every week, every month, and every year of my life, my hero is always 10 years away. It's always me 10 years away. I'm never going to be my hero, but anyway, it reminded me of what you were saying. He was like, someone to chase was, who you want to be, in the future,
Right.
kind of 10 years into the future kind of thing. And I don't know, I really, that was the first time that I ever had heard Matthew McConaughey speak, not in a movie. And I was like, whoa, I was kind of blown away when he's like, when this was his speech, I was like, man, that was like really damn deep. And then, fast forward, makes sense, fast forward 10 years later or whatever it was, and he does Green Lights. And I was like, I mean, I think you and I both were entertained as hell, but at the same time, like, learned a lot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was an informational book, and he has a good philosophy and outlook on life. And, he's a black sheep as well, right? He does things his own way, and, lives his own life, and he's his own hero, somebody to chase, right? So
Right.
it just reminded me of, what you were kind of saying about yourself. And that's totally fine. I like that.
And like I said, you have to be your biggest fan.
Right.
That's the only way you be happy, regardless who you are. You can be like a nobody and be happy. You can be a billionaire and be happy. You know what I mean? So for me, that's my thinking. I mean, maybe, like I say, I'm not normal, but it's okay.
Well, that's what makes you a good person. That's why I'm talking. If you were normal, I wouldn't talk to you, because I don't feel I'm a normal person either. I mean, we're both kind of weirdos, and that's good. Weirdos can combine.
I like being a weirdo.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, that's a good way to. I feel like it's a good one to wrap up on this. For tonight. So we have one more left of Humankind.
Yeah,
and
we'll do that on Monday.
We'll tackle that one on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
But great discussion as always. And the question we can leave with you all is
yes.
Who's your hero, and how do you try to emulate them in your life, or mirror them, or however you want to call it. So let us know, and thanks for joining, and we'll see you all.
We'll come back for part 5 of 5.
Can't wait.
All right, see ya.